First of all, it's raining and a little bit cold today, or cold for me anyway, and it feels a little bit like basketball season today. And just want to thank all of y'all for coming. I told Brian when we talked about this event that when we had it last year, the first thing I thought was, where was the food? I didn't quite understand why we weren't feeding you guys anymore, so I told him if we would just get some sandwiches or something. I thought we could get a few more people and obviously make everybody a little bit happier. But again, we appreciate you all coming out. The first thing I would like to do is, I know they're in the back room right there, but just introduce you guys. If you haven't met my staff, Coach Travis Mays, Associate Head Coach. J. Lee Mitchell in the back, Assistant Coach. Sean McPherson, Strength Coach. And George Washington, Assistant Coach. And I think Amy Bradley, Special Assistant, is back in the back there. But again, just a great staff. And the thing that I think has been, along with a lot of other things that have been very encouraging, bringing back a group of people that there was some continuity with, I thought was really, really huge. Something that a lot of times a head coach can't control and a program can't control. Coaches leaving, and you hope eventually that some of those things happen because that means you've been successful. But after the first year, I thought it was critical that we try to keep this thing moving in the right direction, and one of those pieces was to keep our staff together, because the players were, they're under a lot of change, and there were a lot of changes made last year, and keeping them and us on the same page helps the players. And that, continuity, consistency with players helps them understand what's expected and how to be successful. So appreciate my staff and them staying with this. Obviously, to think about where we're at right now and where we're headed, it's the 40th year for women's basketball. Lots of tradition and lots of expectations here, and I understand that. I think the thing that I'm pleased with our team is that I think they're beginning to understand that also. And that was a huge challenge for us, just to get them to have the concept of what it was like to wear a Texas uniform. In particular, the young players. We added some junior college players in the mix that, they wouldn't know what was expected at the University of Texas. And I think our players have a lot better understanding of what they're supposed to do on a daily basis. And I don't just mean basketball, how they're handling their business off the court, how they're approaching practice every day, how they approach their academics. On the academic side, I could not be more pleased with the progress we have made. I can't speak specifically about it, but I am thrilled with our commitment, which kind of leads into what our theme is for the year. We always try to have sort of a theme and something to center our team around. And Coach McPherson started this summer with something that we talked about as a group and as a staff of what we wanted to focus on in their summer conditioning. And with the new NCAA rules, we had the ability to also work with our team this summer, which I thought was tremendous. It gave our staff a chance to be around all the time. We could we could actually attend the weight workouts, do 2 hours of instructional work with them, and I thought that was really huge for our team at this point in the program. But along with that, we talked about how to get the players to commit to the Texas way. Commit to hard work every day. How do you get between the lines and go to work? How it becomes a little more business-like once you get between the lines, and how to handle the expectations. And that's an everyday thing here. So in doing that, we talked about using the word commitment. Sean came up with Own It as something that they used this summer, which was own the day, and figure out how to own what you do in the weight room, what you do on the court, what you do outside, all of those things. And so we traditionally change it when it gets into the school year, and once we start practice, which we start on Monday, we kind of re-energize and think of something new. But I thought with this group it would be really good to stay with that. So that's sort of become our mantra, is how do we own the responsibility of being at Texas? How do we own the tradition? How do we own the past? And how do we own the future? So that's really what we've been working on. It's a work in progress, I will tell you that. We're not where we need to be, and I don't think any coach would tell you that in October at this point. But I like what they're doing approach-wise every day. In talking individually about some of the players, you start with the senior class, and ironically enough, some of you asked who are the seniors, and I understand that. Because you've got 3 seniors in this program right now that 2 are non-traditional. They came from junior college, so there's not as much familiarity with them. And then you have, that's Ashley Roberts and Gigi Mazanite. I appreciate them probably more than anyone knows, because they took a chance on coming here and wanted the responsibility to try to help us turn this thing around. And Ashley has been hampered a little bit with the knee. Gigi was injured a little bit last year, but feel really good about where she's at. But just the fact that they weren't afraid of the challenge and that they weren't afraid to come here in a non-traditional way, and they've just completely bought into Texas. They have enjoyed their experience. I'm really proud of them. And then we talk about Chaz Fazell being the lone senior, so to say, that's been here for 4 years. And she's probably someone that I'm most proud of, because it's the coaching change is difficult. You can slice that any way you want to, but when someone was recruited by someone else and had success individually and had a great relationship with the previous staff, it's very, very difficult to say, okay, forget y'all, and I'm going to go to this other group and trust them. And her growth in that area, and just her desire to want to lead, her desire to say, okay, let's put away the past and let's move forward, has been really, really fun to watch. And I think she's set herself up just from her work this summer for a really, really good senior year. Moving on to the junior class, obviously Nneka Impali is the name that everybody is familiar with. And I think Nneka, you talk about Chaz, you talk about Nneka, and I'll talk about Imani in just a little bit, but I think all 3 of them have All-American potential. I think they are players that, if they get some help and are able to do what they're capable of doing and not have to try to do more than they're capable, then I think each one of them individually has the potential to be an All-American. And Nneka worked really, really hard this summer, as she always does, in the weight room, to prepare herself for the grind I think she wasn't quite ready for last year. She got thrown into it, and can't say enough about what her performances were like, but I think now she understands what this is really all about. And she prepared wonderfully this summer, and I just think she's, I wouldn't say the leader of our team, but when it comes down to a player that you have to follow, in particular what they do between the lines, Nneka would be the answer to that, absolutely. Crystal Henderson is our other junior, traditional junior. She came from Trinity Valley Junior College. She is coming off of a national championship at Trinity Valley. And I just can't say enough about what Crystal will bring to the table for our program. A terrific, terrific student, first of all, has a lot of pride in the way she handles her business. She understands how to win. She won in high school. She's a Dallas native from Skyline, and just gets it. Y'all will really enjoy watching her play. I enjoy coaching her every day because she has a spirit that will add to our team. Obviously, it'll be a transition, and I don't want to put too much pressure on her. What she has added for us that, I think everybody knew this and everybody could see this, is we didn't have any depth at the point guard position. Selena was left sort of to hang out there, and if it was a good day, that was great, and if it wasn't, we didn't have an answer for that, and Crystal provides that depth and that ability to take some pressure off of Selena at that position. Going down the line with the sophomores, Brady Sanders right now is hampered a little bit by an injury, so you may not see her today. Brady has come along very, very well, and I expect her to contribute to our team. If anything else, Brady has the ability to shoot the ball, brings great energy, and has that experience from last year, which is invaluable in our league in particular. Selena, and I would probably clump the 3 sophomores together that are traditional sophomores, which would be Selena, Empress Davenport, and Imani. All 3 of them, you just can't deny that they were thrown to the wolves last year. And, it was remarkable to watch them all year long. It was tough to watch at times. It wasn't fun to watch them suffer through some of the situations they were put in, but they're so much more mature this year than a typical sophomore would be. They have bad days, but they're few and far between. And usually sophomores, in my opinion, sometimes you find that sophomores have that sort of that middle child syndrome where it's like, I'm not a freshman anymore, I'm not a baby, and I'm not getting any attention, but I'm not mature enough to be a leader. And they've handled that pretty well, being a sophomore. But they're just so much easier to coach. So they've been fun. They have progressed, and I think you'll see a lot of maturity in them. And getting to our freshman, Kelsey Lang is from the Woodlands, 6'5" player that I think will add tremendous depth in the front court for us. She will back up Imani. Let me back up for just a minute and talk about Imani. Imani obviously had a very, very good year in the Big 12. Everything that all the honors she received were absolutely deserved. I do think Imani is another one of those you could put in that category of All-American status if she learns to bring it every day in practice. She's one of those that is so gifted that she hasn't quite figured out the everyday process. Again, she's also coming off of a layoff this summer where we tried to mend some things that she needed, really probably should have taken care of before she got here. So she's healthy right now. She feels really good, a little bit behind in the conditioning aspect. So when she plays catch up, I think she'll be exactly where we want her to be. But it may take Imani some time. I would suggest that I don't want to say, I don't know where she's at right now, but she's going to be exactly where we want her to be when it's time to be that way. And then skipping to the freshman, Kelsey Lang, the 6'5" player from the Woodlands, will do a terrific job of backing Imani and Nneka up. It will be a situation where she won't get thrown to the wolves like they did, and that's a good thing for her because she has a very high basketball IQ. She's a player that I think she might be our best pure shooter at 6'5". If you just lined them up and said, and Travis does this every now and then, but line them up and let's look at their shooting form. Kelsey's is pretty picture perfect. Really, really will remind you a little bit of some of the Iowa State post players that you see that'll drag you out to the three-point line. She can shoot. She has good range. We call her a kitten right now. She's a little kitten, and when she learns that it's a physical game and she might have to get her elbows out a little bit, then she's going to be just fine. She'll be a really great contributor in a lot of areas. Love her attitude, and her work is she just has to learn how hard you have to play at this level. That's a new thing for a freshman. And Nakia Jones right now, I think there's a lot of questions about her. She is hampered also with an injury, and you will not see her today, as is Bree Taylor. These are minor things that we hope will clear up soon, but you will not see either one of those today. I do expect them to contribute to our team. Fourth freshman, help me out. Lily Vanderzee. Last but not least, absolutely. Lily's from Granbury, another 6'4" post player that, the thing that Lily has that is really special is that she comes from a winning background. I mean, Granbury is known for traditional winning programs in women's basketball. So Lily understands how to get in and get to work. And she will provide a spark for us, I think, just someone that can come in, give someone a break until she learns the ropes. I mean, again, a typical freshman that's got to get in there and get her feet wet, but has really, really good work ethic and does some really good things around the bucket, which is what we'll need.
When you're talking about you keep talking how the freshman last year got thrown to the wolves in this league and it was tough, and that's not the situation now. Is there for as much preparation as you do you almost have to have some luck that you recruited the right type of kid to withstand that kind of season and get better as opposed to getting worse?
It's a great question. I think the players that you do see, because it happens. I mean, everybody sees it all over the country that you bring freshmen in and they aren't your typical freshmen. And all of a sudden, they're leading teams to national championships and they're handling all this pressure and all this hype really, really well. Those are the ones that I think they've had a lot of experiences in high school, whether it be that they've won 3 or 4 state championships and they really understand that extra gear you have to be in, may come from a traditional program where they've been taught really well, a lot of detail in the high school area. And then another piece to that, in the women's game in particular, is have they had any USA basketball experience? What has been their club experience on top of whatever their high school experiences are? And in particular, if they've had some USA basketball experience at a young age, they have this presence that is not normal. So I think that those players they're not so overwhelmed by everything. They've been overseas. They've played for gold medals. They've played for state championships, and it's not so overwhelming to them. I don't think Empress was overwhelmed by the work last year because she came from an environment where that was normal to her. What she was overwhelmed with was the pressure, and there was so much put on her, and she wasn't quite ready for that. But I think some of the other ones, the whole thing was overwhelming. Every day in practice was overwhelming for them, like it is our freshmen right now.
Did you expect last year to be as challenging as it was, or was it maybe even a little worse than what you expected? And what did you learn from that?
I don't necessarily think it was. I don't think it was worse than what I expected, and I didn't know what to expect. And what was hard and challenging was how do you keep those players that were trying really, really hard. It wasn't like they weren't trying. Once we sort of settled in, and we had some players that were in and out and in and out and in and out, and that was difficult because we didn't ever know what to expect. And then when it finally settled and we knew that nobody's coming back, this is it, this is what we have to play with, they really went to work. And what was hard was to keep them built up and to keep them positive and to help them understand that they really were doing a lot of good things. They're just playing against people that are juniors and seniors that have been through the fires, and they knew how to make those last plays, take those last steps in games. I think back to the Oklahoma State game, which was late in the year last year at Oklahoma State. We led most of the game. We should have won the game. We didn't finish the game. And those were the times that were difficult. I did learn some things. I learned some personal things just about how to deal with the injuries, how to deal with the players, regarding all of that. Some things that you learn something every year. If there's no question about that. That's the most I learned was really how to deal with that adversity of having the players in and out like that. That's where I had to take a step back and go, this is no one's fault, and let's make the most of it. Now we're sitting in a situation where those three players in particular have a lot of playing time, and so they will, it wasn't fun last year, but now they have that experience to fall back on, and it won't be so daunting to them.
And then from the end of last year to now, what do you think the biggest step that you've seen maturity-wise from your girls?
I think the day-to-day, this is how we do it. And that sounds really simple, but until you figure that out, we talk about it all the time about just this is the way you're supposed to do things. It's a culture. This is the Texas way. This is how we do it. And then that becomes the norm. And I think just the acceptance and the buy-in to this is, we want to take ownership of this. The own it thing really is real for them because they really do want to take ownership of this program. They want it to be where it was. And we didn't know each other well enough last year to even know whether we did or not. That's just being honest. I think we tried, but there's a reason why recruiting is so important. And it's because it's about relationships. And that piece was missing, that first year. I've been through that. That's my third time to do that. So that's why a lot of things didn't surprise me, because I've seen all that before. How hard it is to take over a group and they don't know you and they don't know where you came from. They don't know your staff. And that's why recruiting is so big, because that's where you develop that trust.
With Baylor taking a step back, does the league seem wide open to you guys?
Nobody's beaten them yet, so I think you still have to say that they're going to be in a position where we're still chasing them until someone beats them. I think that the league went through some hard times last year in some situations where, and I think it's happening everywhere, but I think the injuries to several teams made the league appear to have less parity than it really did. Obviously, Baylor was head and shoulders above everyone, but I do think that there were some teams, and I think our team was one of them, that would have been better. K-State, I mean, look at what they did without half their team. Oklahoma didn't have half of their team last year. So I think there would have been a little more parity had there not been a lot of injuries. So I think it will be that way. Our league is really good, top to bottom. There's a reason why we've led the country in attendance 14 straight seasons. It is the best league in the country, top to bottom.
Coach, last year, the players, you're new to them, and I'm sure that all of them are uncomfortable in one way or another, even the veterans. Do you sense that they've got a certain comfort level now with you that they didn't have at this time last year?
Absolutely. I can absolutely say that because, and I don't even want to say with me, I mean, it's the whole staff. You're talking about the whole group of people everyone was new. And our staff I can't compliment them enough for how much time they have spent trying to get to know the current players, the returners, to make up for the missed time in recruiting. So it's been a team effort from our players' standpoint and from the coaches, but absolutely more comfort.
You're talking about comfort, you're talking about, you got all that new program out of the way. Are you able, because of that, to work, as the cliche says, work smarter instead of work harder kind of thing?
We hope we're getting to that point. I think that is still a work in progress, and that's why I said that to begin with. We are still a work in progress. There are still days that it's just not what we do yet. There are still some days when it's like, we really have to do this. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all. It's just, I think I've seen it happen where all of a sudden the light comes on and it just becomes the normal thing. And your bad days become less often. And I mean, I watched them all summer long in conditioning. So I saw when they went back to the bad days and all of that. So I think it's just less often and better handled by me and them.
Coach, you talked about buying in. What signs, of indication have you seen from some of the players of actually buying into the?
You hear them talk. It's the way they talk. It's the way they carry themselves. And it's everything. I mean, we talk about, again, back to the Texas way of doing things. It's everything to understanding why the tower is lit. And do you ever talk about it? And it's just, I hear them talking about things that you're supposed to be talking about when you're an athlete here. You can tell that they have goals. You can tell that they understand the pride that you're supposed to have when you play here. I can tell by their grades. I can tell by their tweets. It means something to them. And again, we are a work in progress, and you may see us early, and we might not look like the team we're going to look like in January. We won't look like the team that we're going to look like in January. But I think that's not a bad thing, in particular for this team, because some of this is going to include our young players growing and some players that were out with injuries this summer that are now back, getting in shape. But that may be a better thing than as opposed to last year. Our best game was our first one. That's not a good thing at all. Not a good thing. But it was. That was the truth, because we had every healthy body there the first game. I mean, and we looked really good. And that's just not where you don't want to be that way. I think I told you guys I was reading Patino's book, and he said no, he talked about them being 31-2, and he reminded his players that, you're not judged until your final exam. I mean, nobody will remember what your record is at your final exam, and it's what you do in postseason. So that's the focus of our team right now, is how do we keep getting better every day and get back to postseason. I mean, that has to be what our goal is. We have to get back to postseason.